So our habits form us, and in return, we are formed by the habits we keep. It's easy enough to pacify a child by handing them our phone or plopping them in front of the television while we're making dinner. Not that screens are always bad, but are we thinking about how they impact and what role we're allowing them to play in our family's homes? So that's what we're talking about today. My name is Joy, and I'm actually hosting the Screen Free Kids Get Outside Nature Challenge. And this is to help inspire you to get your children outside more regularly and start making a habit of being outside. Now, I think often we think of being outside as something that the kids need to go and do, that we can just shoo them out and then, now they're playing outside happily. But what most of us find is that if we're inside all the time, then our children are also inside all the time. So then it's difficult to lead them outside because we're like, well, you're not out there, so why should I go out there? If we can start to find ways in the rhythm of the day to get all of us outside and start to lead our children into the inspiring ideas of the outdoor world, then that in turn will allow them to start to explore nature on their own while we need to be prepping dinner. Let's just talk about a few different ways that we can incorporate getting outside into the daily rhythms of our home. So the first one is just taking our meals outside. If we make it a goal to have one meal a week outside, and then when the weather is really fine, trying to have one meal a day outside, whether it's lunch and we're just going to go have a picnic, or we're going to use that picnic table that we bought and aren't using, then those things can start to create a rhythm, and then we start to get a sense for what are the things that we're starting to see. We do start to see that the same birds are coming at the same times of day, and that the squirrel that we see, stealing the bird seed. We can also watch the clouds as they go by. We start to get a sense of the weather and how the seasons are changing. And this actually allows us to live more fully in God's world instead of having a little bit more apathy, being a little bit more numb to how we are experiencing life. And of course, nobody wants that. We all want to live a fuller, more robust life. The next idea is to take our work outside so that the children can play while we are working outside. So often what this will look like is kind of an old-fashioned idea of printing things off and taking it outside to read. I will often do this with blog posts or any download I really want to read through, and I really don't want to read it on my screen, and I want to have my pencil handy so that I can underline and make notes. And that allows me to process the information more deeply, and then if one of my children needs me or interrupts me with some little comment, I'm not irritated at all. Whereas if I was reading it on my phone, I would be irritated. And part of that irritation, I think, is because it feels like we're not going to be able to get back to that information because it's open in a tab on our phone, versus if I'm reading something, I can just stop where I am, put it down, and I'll know exactly where I was, and I can pick back up. The next idea is to get outside with your children. Now you might play a game with them. Whether it's using the Screen Free Challenge and you're going to go hunt for different things in your yard or in your neighborhood, and really just give yourself 10 minutes to do this type of activity. Or sometimes I will go outside and look for something, and then I will come back and tell my children what I saw and can you go find it, such as a bird's nest or a flower that was just in bloom, or since we keep a garden, maybe I've seen that there's some rabbits getting into some of the vegetables, so maybe they can go check and tell me which ones they can see have been eaten a little bit. So it's these ways that start to lead us outside, which leads me to my next idea, which is keeping a garden. Even if it's a small garden, even if you're just buying some wildflower seeds from the dollar store. And we've done this in different homes that we've lived in. We've always lived in rentals until we moved into this home. It really made a huge difference for how I felt about the space, was to plant something, care for a little, just a very small small piece of dirt and then have either beans or cosmos or zinnias. Those are all like really easy things to grow in most climates. So the next thing you could do is to make a day of it, whether it's taking your kids on a trail, heading out to the mountains, going to hunt for the waterfall that's nearby, going to a local creek. All of these ideas really are fun and they become a little bit of a family adventure, especially if you live in a city or a suburb where you're really bringing the habit of getting your kids out in nature more a part of their daily or their weekly rhythm. So we did this when we lived in our other neighborhood. We lived in what I would call an uninspiring subdivision. And we had a standing weekly play date with some friends at the local nature center. And we would go out there. It's a beautiful facility. There's like 300 acres for you to walk around. They had naturalists there to answer questions. They had a garden. You see what I'm getting at? It was really cool. That brought in a lot of beautiful ideas to our home and then gave us more inspiration for when we were kind of just in our humdrum regular neighborhood. So speaking of neighborhoods, the last idea is going for a daily walk. Now, we have done this for about 7 years now, and it actually was inspired by Charlotte Mason, where she says, go outside with your children. And what I realized at the time, it was winter and we were living in the state of Washington, and it was really cold for me who grew up in Florida. And I realized I wasn't going outside with my kids because I wasn't dressed appropriately. I needed to purchase snow pants, a snow jacket, and snow boots and gloves and a hat so that I would join my children. And then from that time on, seriously, every single day since 7 years ago, I get outside with my children on a daily walk. And I even incorporate it into the daily timetable because I love being outside so much. And I found that even though I value it, even though I love it, I was not getting outside on a regular basis because I hadn't figured out how to make it a habit. And so I just pin it. In the springtime and the summer and the fall, we always go right after math. And then actually this last winter, we even kept it in the morning. Sometimes I'll move it to later in the day when it's sunnier in the winter time and you can at least get some sense of sun on you. But I love doing it right after math. And then that actually gives all of us energy and revitalizes us. But the other thing it does is it helps us to move in the world and start to see the seasons change. We start to watch the leaves as they change. We start to see the birds building their nests. So we are able to experience our neighborhood more fully because we're out in it on a regular basis. And guys, every neighborhood we've lived in and done this, nobody does that. Nobody gets outside on a regular basis. So I would love to inspire and encourage you to give it a shot. I have a free download below for the Screen Free Kids Get Outside Challenge. It'll give you a ton of ideas for what to do once you're out there, and you can treat it as a little bit of a game. It's set up kind of like a bingo game, and then you can try to get 5 in a row and then let a child pick a special outing that they like to go to. Which trail would you like to go to? Which creek do you want to go head up? And then it kind of becomes this fun adventure for your children. And then the other thing I'll link to down below is more for mom. It's kind of inspiration for mom. It's the Screen-Free Guide to the Outdoor Life of Children. And what this does is kind of give you an opportunity to reflect on your own habits and your own attitude about getting outside. And then it'll give you inspiring ideas about plants, birds, and animals that you can start incorporating into the daily rhythms of your home so that you all are starting to learn how to start, just starting to get outside a little bit more regularly. Well, I hope this was an encouragement to you, and I hope to see you outside. See you next time.